Thank you everyone so much for joining us this afternoon for our webinar, Leveraging Injury and Illness Data to Improve Employee Training. Just one quick note, this webinar is not eligible for continuing education or professional development hours. Before we go ahead and get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. First of all, this webinar is being recorded. The recording and parts of the presentation will be provided to registrants and attendees in a follow-up email. You'll either get that later this week or the following week. Right now, if you are having any technical difficulties, you can see my screen, but you're not hearing anything, or you're hearing me and you're not seeing anything on the screen, you can go ahead and use the questions icon or the chat function and let us know, and we will respond to you individually. The questions function is there for your participation to comment, ask questions throughout the webinar. We won't get to your question right away, but we will either address it during our stopping point or at the end of the webinar. And last but not least, there will be a short survey at the end of this webinar. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. It should pop up as soon as you exit the webinar, and if not, you will receive that survey in a follow-up email. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Claire, and she will go ahead and get us started.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hopefully everyone in just a second should be able to see my slide on leveraging injury and illness data to improve employee training. And so I want to welcome and thank everyone for attending. I'm really excited to talk on this topic. Just an overview of what we're going to do today. We're going to give you an introduction to who I am. My name's Claire Epstein, General Manager of Industry Safe. Also talk about Industry Safe and Vector. What are some current Industry Safe data, Industry Safe safety data challenges I'm sure all of you are facing as you try to make sense of both incident and training data. Talk about how you can connect incident and training data, and then what does Industry Safe and Vector have to offer in this arena, and finally a product demo. It sounds like a lot, but I talk quickly and I think we'll be able to get through it. Again, as mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, just use that question feature. We want to be able to answer your questions as we can. Okay, so a little bit about my background. My name is Claire Epstein. I'm the General Manager of Industry Safe. Industry Safe is a safety management software. I've worked really most of my professional life helping customers and clients look at their safety data and use software to do that. I've worked with safety reviews and then really spent the last 15 years working on Industry Safe and developing that platform and working with our clients to make sure that Industry Safe delivers value to them. So about Industry Safe, we are headquartered in Philadelphia. As I mentioned before, we're a safety management software that allows our customers to track, analyze, and collect a wide variety of safety data. That safety data includes both injury and illness data, as well as training data. We also have the ability to provide training content to our clients. And we were acquired by Vector Solutions in July of 2019. We couldn't be more excited about the acquisition. And we have been developing and creating the software since 2004. We are constantly updating and upgrading our product, and we have over 450 clients who use our software to keep track of injury and illness data, as well as training data and training content. And we're very familiar with the U.S. safety regulations, especially as it comes to that OSHA piece. So Vector Solutions is a leading provider of software as a service, compliance-driven enterprise e-learning, workforce management, performance improvement solutions. And so they really focus on helping their customers reduce risk and ensure compliance. And a big way they do that is by e-learning courses. And so what's so great about having Industry Safe and be a part of Vector is that we can take that injury and illness data that we're collecting in Industry Safe and also our training delivery and couple it with some amazing content by Vector. Vector has multiple locations throughout the U.S. So in terms of what we see out there among some of our customers, there's lots of data, there's lots of challenges still with EHS data. There's so much data. It's not about not having enough data, is my guess. And folks, if you feel differently, please chime in and let me know. It's about how to organize and create intelligent, actionable items from that data. So most of you are probably collecting all sorts of safety data. They just might not be together and connected. And then if you're doing safety training, and I know almost all safety professionals out there are involved with safety training in one form or another, it takes a lot of time to do safety training programs, and it is also difficult to keep that safety training exciting. And then if you're trying to figure out what is the best training for your workforce, that can be difficult and time consuming. And then if you're also trying to make sure you schedule and deliver the appropriate training, that can also be difficult and time consuming. So to sum it up, I see safety professionals who want to be out in the field improving safety, instead spending a lot of time having to look at data, analyze data, schedule things out, which takes away from, I think, out in the field and what they would rather be doing. So our goal at Vector and at Industry Safe is to help you be much more efficient in delivering and in improving safety and delivering high quality safety training. Here's a list of some of the safety data sets that we see our clients have. And I know this webinar was called Leveraging Your Injury and Illness Data, and I will talk about that, and there's a lot there. But I will say that not only do you have injury and illness data to leverage, but if you're using any of these other data sets, they also become a very powerful tool to help you improve your training and improve safety. And so incidents I'm going to talk about, but there are other data sets that I'm sure, again, most folks are doing. If you're doing inspections on a regular basis, they can also help you. Looking at the data can help you improve your training. Any sort of behavioral-based training would help. Any hazard analysis, job safety analysis, claims, of course, is a essential piece to that incident and illness data, because that's a lot of times there's significant dollar amounts associated with the claims piece. And then some other, a little bit more esoteric pieces, either industrial hygiene or a job safety analysis. So the concept here is not super sophisticated. You look at where your trouble spots are, whether it's incidents or any of those other safety data sets I mentioned, and you use that to make sure your employees are being trained effectively. And then based on that effective employee training, you hopefully have less incidents, and it's a beautiful feedback loop that anyone who has looked at any sort of ISO standard or any other standards out there is probably pretty familiar with. So that's the concept we're talking about here. It's not rocket science, but again, it's always a little bit harder to do in practice than in theory, and that's some of the practical things we're going to talk about today. So I wanted to start, if you're going to look at injury and illness data and how it can help you improve your training and improve safety, I think it's important to understand some of the common incident and illness metrics that are out there and that we see organizations using today. And I would say of our organizations and our customers that collect data, most of them are focused on this incident and injury arena, and most of them are focused on OSHA record keeping and OSHA recordables. And it's really just a good baseline to help you know where you are with your incident and illness data. So what our folks out there are focusing on OSHA recordables, And then they're also focusing on their days. Sometimes they'll look at their days without a lost time incident, total case incident rate, and days away restricted transfer rate. These are some very common incident indicators we see out there. We have some other ones, and I'll go through those as well. But this is by far, for our U.S.-based customers, what metrics they're using for incidents and injury. For those of you who may not be 100% familiar with what is a TCIR rate, what is the DART rate, and sometimes that TCIR rate is actually, most times it's often referred to as a TRI rate or an OSHA rate. So it really is, it's a statistic that OSHA pushes. BLS also, Bureau of Labor Statistics keeps track of, and if anyone is doing any sort of OSHA VPP program, it's important for that VPP certification. So what is it? It's taking the number of OSHA recordable injuries and illnesses, multiplying it by 200,000 and dividing it by employee total hours worked. That gives you your total case incident rate. And for those of you who don't know what an OSHA recordable injury and illness is, it is a work-related injury or an illness that causes specific consequences to the injured or ill employee. I'm not going to go into the nuances of every single piece of OSHA recordable. We have some great info on our website if that's of interest to you. But in general, it means an employee is injured at work, and that injury is severe enough that it requires either medical treatment beyond first aid, they miss work, or they have to be restricted from work, and there's a couple of other things as well. But that's really the key component. Some other incident and injury metrics that we see our clients keep track of is, one is incidents by root cause, and this becomes particularly important when looking at how you might tailor your training to reduce your injury and illness. Incidents by body part, if they have a vehicle fleet, incidents by vehicle mile driven, the incident pyramid, which is this idea that you have minor incidents or near misses at the bottom and hopefully less and less severe incidents as you go up the pyramid. And the idea is that sometimes looking at that data, maybe it's not quite a severe incident, but still looking at that data can help you tailor your training and prevent incidents. Average time lag in reporting incidents. This is a great stat. It's not necessarily related to training, but it's how quickly you report an incident, because studies have shown the more quickly you report an incident, the less that incident is going to cost you on all sorts of ways. Some other metrics that are important: incidents by day of week, incidents by time of day, job title, and these are all key, I think, components when you're looking at how you can take that incident data and help you provide appropriate training. Because if you are looking, for example, that incidents are occurring at a certain type of day, you may want to have specific training, how to drive at night, for example. Job title means you want to focus your training on a specific type of job title, worker type, etc. Claims cost is important, because if you have limited training budget, limited time to develop training, you obviously want to focus on those incidents and that training that will prevent the high cost incident. So how do you use incident data for training? I've alluded to this, but there's a couple of ways that it can really help you. One is that you can look at your incident root causes and figure out what type of training you need. You can also look at it when you do have an incident. Very easy, if you are connected your incident data set and your employee data set and your employee training data set, anytime an incident occurs, you can look up at that involved employee and see their training history. So you'll be able to see at a glance, hey, did the employee have the appropriate history, did it have the appropriate training to be doing the task that they were doing? As you're going through and looking at your incidents, it's going to be an excellent way to identify new training opportunities and prioritize safety critical training. So if you have a wide variety of training your folks have to take, certainly the ones that are causing incidents and illnesses to your workforce are training you want to prioritize and make sure you take care of. So here's a couple of examples of how you might tailor certain types of incidents with certain types of training. So for example, if you have an employee who hurt their back while lifting a box, you would do an incident investigation and you would do a root cause and you'd be like, oh, this employee was not lifting properly. Okay, great. I'm going to make sure I deliver to that employee back injury prevention and ergonomics for industrial environments. Another example is I have an employee who's out there driving while texting. I've decided that at least one of the root causes is distracted driving. I'm going to make sure I deliver the dangers of distracted driving and alert driving to that employee. So that's a very one simple scenario of how, hey, I'm looking at that incident data. How can I make sure I'm delivering safety training content? There's some other ways to look at it as well. So that was really just focused on, hey, I've got this one employee that I know I need to retrain. And I think a lot of organizations are pretty good at doing that. What you can do once you have larger data sets and really keep track of this is you can also be more proactive. So, hey, I've had a bunch of back injuries in the last quarter or last month at this particular warehouse on a particular shift. And I know that training on back injury prevention and ergonomics for industrial environments would be helpful, but hey, now I can easily see who I need to deliver that safety content to. And so I want to create training specifically for folks who, obviously the injured employees, but also any other employees and supervisors who work at that particular location in that particular shift. And then you can see the same thing with the second block. Hey, I've noticed a lot of issues with, and these are just comparative examples. Hey, I've noticed that I have my younger employees who've been with the company less than 1 year have been having more issues with distracted driving. So now I'm going to do a campaign just to target that. So these are just some simple real-world examples of how you can connect your incident and illness data to training. Now I want to switch gears. So we were looking at, hey, how can my incident data help me with my training? And now I'm going to look at the reverse. How can my training data help me with my incident data? And so when you look at training data, here are just some common metrics that most folks who are delivering training are looking at. Where are my employees overdue for training? Are they overdue for safety critical training? What classes are being offered? What classes are being attended? Are folks passing classes that they need to pass? What classes are overdue? If you're doing online training, you might look at the engagement level while they're taking the course. So these are all some common safety training metrics. When you connect the data the other way and you're looking at how can my training data help me with my incidents, the whole idea is as you improve your training, you're going to see a relationship with your incident data. So you're going to hopefully see a reduction in your hits, in injuries and illnesses. You're going to see a reduction in workers' compensation claims. You're going to see a reduction in your days away restricted transfer rate and your total case incident rate. And if you are also looking at behavioral-based safety data sets, or inspections, you're going to also see an increase in safe behavior and an increase in preventative measures. Okay, so I hope that gave you a nice flavor of some of the data points and data sets and how you can connect the data. And then I guess the next question is, okay, well, I know there's data and I know I can connect it, but how do I really pull it together in a practical manner? And the way that you do that easily is with software. And with a software system, whether it's ours or someone else's, you do need a place to store that data, you need a way to push out the training, and you need a way to benchmark your indicators and training metrics together. And that is really what the partnership of Industry Safe and Vector offer, the tool sets to do that. This is just an example of a screenshot that we have in Industry Safe. But you can see that in Industry Safe, for example, you can look at an employee safety and training history side by side. You can look at their incident history. You can look at a whole bunch of other components. With Industry Safe, everyone is going to do instant record keeping and training a little bit different. You want to be able to adjust based on your organization, whether it's a different incident recording form to report incidents, whether it's looking at total case incident rates calculated by contractor or subcontractor, and then it's also making sure that you have the right training content to deliver your workers and subcontractors. And so Industry Safe offers all of those components, and then Vector offers really a huge library of classes that can help deliver the appropriate safety training content. So after you've done your incident analysis and figured out what training you need, hey, I've got now a library of all sorts of appropriate targeted training to deliver to my employees. And the idea is that as you utilize Industry Safe and Vector, that you're going to reduce your lost days, your property and equipment damage, your lost payouts, and your cost to deliver training. And again, that's all by doing that loop, is looking at your safety data sets, figuring out what training is appropriate to your workforce, delivering that training, and hopefully seeing that reduction. Okay, I'm going to take it, before I jump into the software, I was going to take a quick break to see if we have any questions that have come in.
Okay, great. If there are any questions, please feel free to use the questions feature and we will address those now. Claire, I did see one come in. What benefits do you see in tracking some of the other safety data sets available in Industry Safe and connecting them to training?
That is a really, really good question. So a lot of times, so I do see a lot of value in connecting all of these, some of these other data sets to training. One thing that can happen with incidents and injuries is that it is a lagging indicator. So you're really waiting for something to happen, and then you're going out and doing training. And you may also, in this, hopefully you're not having a lot of incidents, you may not have a lot of data to tell you what's going on. I mean, if you only have one incident a year, that's not really helping you. A, it's reactive, and B, that's not enough information exactly to figure out targeted training. So some of the other data sets, such as inspections, offer a lot more proactive approach to figure out what training you need. So if you're going out and doing an inspection, for example, and you see that when you do an inspection, there's always a finding about the floor being wet after it rains. Well, you don't need to wait for an incident where someone slips and trips and then push out the training. You can use that inspection data and say, you know what, we're going to do some training on slip, trips, and falls prevention and things like that. So that's just one example how, if you look at the data sets correctly and you tailor your training, you can be a lot more proactive in preventing injury and illnesses. Great. A couple more questions. Any other questions before I jump into the software?
Yeah, so now that Industry Safe is a part of Vector Solutions, what technology improvements or features might we see that assist safety professionals to deliver the safety training more effectively?
Again, another great question. So I think one thing you're going to see is now for folks who are on the Industry Safe side, our existing clients who might be on this webinar, we now have a very, very extensive library of all sorts of different safety training to offer our clients. And then the second piece, really for clients either coming from the Vector side, and then from the Vector side, we have this great tool that helps you keep track of your incident data and lets you conduct inspections. And so really the value add is tying all of that together and being able to look at incidents and deliver training content. And some of the things you'll see, so you have that expertise now, but some of those things you'll see in the future are those systems being tied together, both in terms of login and look and feel, and also in intelligence. That there'll be some more automated tools out there that will say, hey, look, safety manager, I think based on all of your data sets that I see, I think this is the type of safety training you should offer, and here it is, and gee, push this button and we can deliver it to the folks we think need it. So I think lots of exciting things coming out with Vector and Industry Safe together.
Awesome.
Okay,
go ahead. Sorry.
Any other questions?
Yep, we had one more question, and this is about mobile capability. Does Industry Safe have mobile capability, and how do you see mobile usage impacting incident tracking and training delivery?
So I definitely think, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, that mobile is the way to go. With Industry Safe, we have we have mobile apps available for incidents, inspections, and behavioral-based safety, which means it makes it that much easier to be out in the field conducting an inspection, doing a behavioral-based safety, or an incident investigation, and then syncing the data back to Industry Safe. And then there are some options also on the Vector side to deliver training from a mobile device. So we're continuing to work on mobile. We have some great mobile apps. And I think that's a great segue into showing folks a little bit about the software. So thank you. So what I'm going to do is hopefully folks can still see my screen. I'm just going to refresh here. This is the Industry Safe software, and I am going to show you a couple things really focusing on that data analytic part. But I do want folks to know that if they go to industrysafe.com, and if you wanted to see the Industry Safe software, just click on this free demo link, and that will send you a username and password, and you can actually log into the software and browse around. And if you wanted to also look at our mobile app and download that, you can download that from the Apple or Google Play Store and use that same username and password to conduct inspections or incidents on that mobile app. So when you log into Industry Safe, you see all of the different modules. And I'm really going to just focus on incidents and training in our dashboard, because that's where I think the key pieces are. But certainly, if there are other pieces folks want to look at, be happy to reach out to our sales team and to help you take a look at deeper pieces of the software. So starting with incidents, what you see when you go to our incident module is you're going to see a summary screen of all of the incidents you've put in. You can add and edit the summary. You can add and edit existing incident. You can edit existing incidents, or you can add a new incident. Our software is very smart, our incident form, so if you go to fill out an incident based on the type of incident, it'll give you the appropriate fields to fill out. So if you had a vehicle incident and you wanted to collect vehicle data, you could go ahead and it would give you vehicle questions, but if you had no vehicle, you wouldn't get any vehicle questions. So you can really put in any type of incident, employee injury, vehicle, non-employee injury, environmental security, through our incident module, and that's great because you can really tag and target your different training based on that. When I do have an incident, I can look up and put in a particular involved employee. In this case, it's Chris Ritchie. And what you'll see on our incident investigation form is that, as I said, that Chris is the involved employee, what will automatically fill in on the incident investigation form, and bear with me, this could be quite a long form depending on the type of incident you have, is I can see all of Chris's safety training history. So I don't really, all of Chris's training history. So I don't really need to do any other lookup, but I'll see here at a glance everything that Chris has been involved with, all of his training. The other piece I can easily see at a glance is I can see, if I go back here, I can actually also see at a glance Chris's incident history. And so when I go here, I can actually see all of the incident Chris has been involved in, and I can see what type of incident, and that will also give me some useful information about Chris as an employee. Speaking of that, when I go and look up Chris again as an employee, using our search feature here, I hope I spell his name right. And just hang on here as it searches. I can see here all of Chris's history. So this will help me at a glance. I'll see his incident history. I'll see anything he's done with behavioral-based safety or JSAs, and then I'll also see his training history, and I'll see any safety training profiles he might have, any upcoming classes he might take, any required classes, and again, that training history. So it really does connect, hey, someone has had an incident, what else have they been training? What training are they scheduled for to help them improve? And what is their training history? And it's all there at a glance. The other piece I wanted to show you to tie those together is our dashboard, and also within our incident, some of our reporting features. So going back to our incident module, there's all sorts of reports and analysis that you can run and that we can help you run as part of our implementation, where we can help you build, can look at your incident data and help you build the charts and graphs to help you make decisions based on training. So you can see here, here's a list of our an incident log report, and I can filter it, I can add charts, and I can add it to my dashboard. So lots of ability to take and trend the data. And then when I go to my dashboard, I can see all sorts of preset charts and graphs, and a lot of that information that I mentioned in my earlier part of the presentation about looking at your incidents by day of week, by job title, by time of company, by root cause, are all available here in this dashboard. And in addition, you have the ability to create your own dashboard. And all of these charts and graphs are created automatically as you put in your incident data. So for example, when I look at incidents by day of week, I can also drill down and I can see the number and type of incidents, and then I could actually click on it again, and it will show me all of those incidents, for example, that I've had on a Wednesday. There's also a lot I can do with filtering and sorting this data. If you just have one location and you want to look at this, great, but if you have multiple locations, you can organize and filter and sort this data by your business group, by your regions, by your divisions, and by your specific locations. For example, you may have an incident root cause that's happening at one location or business group that you don't see across all of yours. And here, speaking of root cause, here's just an example graph and chart that you can see of your incident by root cause. And then the piece that ties it all together is I'm going to talk a little bit about our training module and a little bit about the vast library of training content that we can offer you. So with our training module, I'm seeing the view that a training manager can see, but there's also a view an employee can see. You can schedule classes, you can develop profiles, and you can create a class catalog. And then for each of the profiles, you can say, okay, well, I know that I'm a maintenance supervisor at this location, and I can tailor all the training I might need for that location. Again, we also have a wide variety of training content that you can look at through Vector. There's lots of options to look at that. I like to go to the Convergence training site and look. Here's a sample of all of their e-learning courses. And there is a whole variety of safety management, but there's also other training as well. You're in a specific vertical and you do have certain types of incident and illnesses. training the proactive preventive training that you might need may not be general safety training. It might be very, very specific to your industry. So that, I think, concludes my piece. I would love to open it up to questions and see if there are any other questions that the group has.
Okay, great, Claire. We've actually had a few questions come in, some really good ones, so I will go ahead and field these for you. Can an employee search for training and take it on their own without it being assigned?
So it does depend. There is the ability when you schedule training to make it open, which means it's just available to anyone. And in those cases, when the training manager has marked that training as open, yes, the employee can go ahead and take it, register for it if it's in person, register for it if it's online, and take it online, even if they haven't been assigned to it.
Okay, great. Another question, can you tell how much time an employee spends reviewing the training? For example, it took Chris 20 minutes to review the ergonomics training.
So I think it depends how you're delivering that training. If it is online training and they're doing it online, through an actual online course, yes, you'll be able to tell how much time he spent. If it's classroom training, then it's really up for the instructor to put in that information. So I think that sort of answers it. So it depends on the type of training, on how it's tracked. But yes, in general, you can tell how many hours someone spent on training, and certainly you can generate reports based on that.
Okay, great. So another question we received was, if we were using industry safe training modules before, will we get the whole suite of convergence modules in place of that?
So if you were using industry safe training content before, we will work with you on a case-by-case basis to figure out what is the safety training content that best meets your needs. So I think the best case to do in that situation is to reach out to your account manager or support rep, and we can have discussions on what best works for you.
Okay, great. And a few people have asked if we will be providing the slides and the recording, and the answer is yes. Once we get this recording available to share, we will send this out to all, not only attendees, but all of the registrants as well. So unless there are any additional questions, again, feel free to use the questions module. Then I think I have not seen any new ones come in. Give it another 20 seconds.
Okay, well, as we're waiting for that question, anything come in?
Nope, no additional questions.
I did just want to say thank you for everyone who attended. I really appreciate it. And if we can be of any more assistance, do not be afraid to reach out to either Industry Safe Support at support@industrysafe.com, Industry Safe Sales at sales@industrysafe.com. Convergence, for example, you can chat with them right online. And obviously, if anyone needs to reach out to me directly, they're welcome to as well. So thank you again so much. I think this now concludes our webinar.